So a bit of a different kind of video today. I'm in the kitchen, and the reason why I'm in the kitchen is I'm going to cook up a little bit of a recipe and show you guys what I do when I'm making my own cichlid buffer or cichlid salt. Now, a lot of you know that I keep African cichlids, and a lot of you also keep African cichlids, or you might keep other fish that need some type of either higher pH or harder water. And depending on where you live, you might have excellent tap water. You don't need to do anything. Or you might have to add some minerals and some things into your water to make it ideal for your fish. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just a very simple recipe. This is just something that I read a few years ago, and I've kind of altered the recipe a little bit to meet my own needs, but then also there's a little bit of a trick that I'm going to show you guys that might help you in having kind of a better experience when using this product. So two of the three ingredients for this recipe are very easy to find at like your normal drugstore, CVS, Walgreens, etc., Walmart, wherever. So the first one is baking soda, and this is something that you can find at any grocery store, right? So very inexpensive. This is like $1 or $2 a box. And then the next one is Epsom salts, and I got this big bag from the pharmacy, and that's going to be part of the recipe. So for those of you that want to know what baking soda is, it is what is it? Sodium bicarbonate. So it's sodium bicarbonate, and then Epsom salts is magnesium sulfate. So these two ingredients are part of the trio that I use in making my own cichlid buffer. Now you can buy your own cichlid salts and cichlid buffer. So there's like the Cicam product and stuff like that come in different flavors or variants depending on what you have. But you know, that can get kind of costly, and if you're looking at saving a few bucks, or if you have a lot of tanks and just don't want to deal with buying this stuff all the time because you're doing large water changes, then making your own recipe might be a little bit easier. And then the last ingredient that I don't have the container for because I've got a 50-pound bag of it downstairs is just reef salt. So I like Kent reef salt just because it dissolves a little bit better. I use it when I'm doing like saltwater aquariums for clients, my own brackish tanks. So any kind of reef salt will be fine. That has really good minerals and things like that you want to have in your aquarium. So that is what I use. So I use a mixture of Epsom salts, baking soda, and reef salt. So I'm going to show you a little bit about the ratio, how I mix it, and why I make it this way. So before we get started, you'll need a couple of things to do this. You'll need some type of bowl to mix it in. You're going to need some kind of container to put your final product in. I happen to like these supplement containers. It's like a pre-workout container. And then for my recipe, you're going to need some type of food processor to basically chop up the Epsom salt. So I'm using a NutriBullet, Magic Bullet, and we're going to chop it up. Now, the ratio of your Epsom salt and baking soda and reef salt is really going to vary depending on your own water quality, your own water parameters. So I would recommend doing some tests on like a 5-gallon bucket to kind of see, you know, what amount you need to add of each element in order to get the optimal water qualities. For me here in San Francisco, California, we have a very kind of unique water situation where it's a very high pH at 8.6. And the TDS is like 30, so it's almost like RO water, so very soft but high pH. So I am going to use 1 cup of baking soda here, and then I have 1 cup of my reef salt, and then I'm going to do 2 cups of Epsom salt just because I found that to be good for me to raise the hardness of the water that I'm working with. So I'm going to go ahead and pour these in the mixing bowl and mix those up. I'm going to start with just the baking soda and the reef salt. One thing that I should mention is that the reef salt needs to be sealed because it can absorb some moisture and it kind of gets clumpy. So you'll want to do this in a dry environment with dry tools and dry equipment, and then make sure that you seal it properly when you're putting it into your containers. Okay, so now I have my 2 cups of Epsom salts. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in the blender here, the NutriBullet, and we're going to chop this up into really, really small particles. The reason why that we're doing this is that the Epsom salt is kind of large and granular in size. If you can focus there. And that doesn't always dissolve very well. So what we want to do is we want to blend that up into really fine pieces so that it dissolves a lot better in our aquarium. And just like that, we have a nice fine powder. And now you can see we have a nice, finely blended mixture of reef salt, baking soda, and Epsom salts. And I'll just stir this up a little bit more, get rid of all the clumps, make sure that it's evenly spread out. And then I'm going to put them in these containers. And that's it, pretty easy. And just like that, that's pretty simple. Didn't take me long, maybe all of like 5 or 10 minutes to do that whole thing. So very easy to make an inexpensive cichlid buffer or cichlid salt or whatever you want to call it. Now, as far as how you add it to the aquarium, that's going to really vary on your water, as I said before. So you should do some testing, test it out in a 5-gallon bucket or something and measure out a certain amount and then check the pH, the total hardness, etc., carbonate hardness, GH, KH. And the other thing that I would say is sometimes it might not dissolve right away. So if that is something that does bother you, you might want to mix it ahead of time in some water and let it dissolve. Otherwise, I just take a scoop of it, dump it right in the tank as I'm doing a water change, and the water that I'm adding kind of mixes it up, and within a few hours it pretty much all disappears. Sometimes you will get like clumps of it if you don't seal it properly, so if it does kind of clump up, that's fine. You can just take a clump and throw it right in the tank or throw it in a filter, and it will dissolve over time. Or you can just take it and kind of break it up with your hand in underwater, and it will dissolve as well. So anyway, that's what I do. That's how I kind of keep the cost down on doing some of this DIY stuff with my aquarium, since I have so many, since I do have a lot of cichlids, and I have weird water here. I just want to make sure that my fish, have the minerals in the water that they need, that it's the right hardness, that it's the right pH level, and then, of course, for those tanks that I do need that higher pH and the harder water, I have like aragonite and crushed coral in there to help buffer and keep it though. So anyway, that's it. Just a simple little home recipe on how to do this. There's been videos about this before. I just kind of added that blender piece to make it that fine powder because I don't like that kind of clumpy, large granules of Epsom salt. So anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel, all that good stuff. Catch you on the next one.